I had originally planned to do a simple video of showing how to apply graffiti decals to a model, but then they disintegrated. Decal disasters and how to fix them, coming up on JC's Rip Track. Hi there, my name's John and welcome to JC's Rip Track. If you're looking for tips and advice on how to transform your plastic models into something that you'd see on the rails today, then please hit subscribe and that little bell icon so you can be notified anytime I upload a new video. So what sort of decal or paint disasters have you had when trying to paint or weather your models? Please let me know in the comment section down below. A reality of any modeling project is that sometimes things go awry. Decal disasters, painting disasters, solvent spills, all of this happens, but it's a reality of life. And while it's an unfortunate part of the hobby, the act of salvaging something can be satisfying in and of itself. So for me, there was this case study in the boxcar that I've been working on with the salt chipping method. I had originally planned on creating a video on just how to apply graffiti decals and the tips and tricks around that. And then, unfortunately, as I went to apply them, the decals began to disintegrate. I worked on one and it disintegrated, then I tried another one and it disintegrated as well. Now these were microscale decals, which are usually pretty good, but what I had forgotten was that the decal sheets that I was working with were 10 years old. And unfortunately, one little bit of reality is these decal sheets do not age well. And if you try to apply these decals without taking a few steps first, well then this happens. When trying to salvage this, the first thing that I had to do was clean off the decals that had crumbled away. This wasn't too hard. Using a bit of water and a brush, I was able to remove most of the errant pieces. Sometimes, if you find that after a decal has dried, but it has crumbled in some way, shape, or form, you can remove it using, say, something like a toothbrush and just kind of scrape it away. Just make sure that you haven't done this after you have applied a gloss varnish over it. Most of the time, if a decal is going to fall apart, it will happen before you use any gloss clear coat over it. So what it required me to do was try and salvage the decal sheet, because any decal that I would continue to apply from the same sheet means that they would simply crumble like this and the entire sheet would be completely useless. So here's a couple steps on how to salvage a decal sheet. What I tried to do originally was to use a little bit of tester's gloss coat over the decal sheet itself. Now this can work, but it's not always reliable. So on the third decal that I attempted to apply on the side of this car, after using a bit of the gloss coat, it still began to disintegrate. It wasn't as bad as previous, but it still began to fall apart. I decided that I would still try my best and use this as a demonstration on how to salvage a decal that had partially disintegrated on the model. Now I'll get to that in just a second, but if you want to salvage or preserve the life of your decal sheets, what I do recommend is Tester's Decal Bonding Spray or Decal Bonding Spray. This is something that you should probably have in your library, and I have a link for it included down below. When working with larger decals, if they happen to split, it usually isn't too hard to carefully coax the edges of the decal back together. It's like working with a puzzle. Yeah, it's tedious, but it can be done. Make sure that the surface is not too wet. Wick away the extra moisture if you have to. Now, one of the things you have to be very careful about is when you apply microsol to something like this. You will need it, but you need to let it dry, apply the microsol, let it dry, come back, and then use a hobby knife to poke holes in the decal, especially in uneven surfaces. Apply microsol again, and you just rinse and repeat and keep doing this over and over and over again. This is also true when you're working with graffiti decals that haven't fallen apart, but particularly you want these decals, especially the ones that have kind of broken apart, but you've decided to keep them, is to try and just get them as flat to the model as possible. Once you've got the damaged decal applied, you want to put a clear coat over it and then coat the model with a flat coat. Dull coat is pretty good for this. I happen to use Tamiya Flat Clear. Once the flat clear coat had applied, I used a little bit of paint to paint in and around the decal. Because this decal was red and white, I used a little bit of white first to draw in the lines, to fill in the blanks, to really fill in the decal that had fallen apart. This is a good way to do it. It works especially well on graffiti style decals. Now for those tiny little ones, no, this isn't going to work, but for graffiti decals, this is definitely the way to go. Once I had done this, I then further sealed it in, and then I prepped the model for doing some patches. A good way to cover up some of your mistakes with decal disasters is, of course, to use patches. Now, I was planning on using patches anyway for this, but I had all the more the reason. Applying the patches is pretty straightforward. You mask off the areas that you want to have as patched, and then you airbrush a color. In this case, I happen to use a mix of AK Interactive's Pure Blue and the Pale Blue that had been the color of the car before. It was a way to kind of blend it together. And then of course, once the patches are in, you can always add decals over top of it. In this case, I had the road numbers that I wanted to add, as well as a few other markings that were going to go over top of the patches. Applying these extra decals, there really wasn't too much of an issue. These decals are small, they go on fairly easily, and they work quite well. I used my regular process for applying decals in getting these together. And so as you can see, what I've done here, it's been pretty straightforward. This boxcar is starting to look like an old patch job. Now, the reality is, I still want to use the graffiti decals over top of this, and I'll just give you a little bit of a preview. Using the decal bonding spray that I mentioned earlier in the video, this is how well the decal from the same decal sheet that was crumbling went on. As you can see, it went on smoothly. I would then go ahead and do a process of multiple applications of microsol to get it to lie flat to the model. But you get to see the final results of that in the next video. Hopefully disasters on your modeling desk don't happen often, but I'm hoping that this gives you a few ways to deal with it when they do. The main thing to remember is that setbacks do happen, but don't let them discourage you from doing future projects. But we can learn from it, and that, like most of life's lessons, is the most important thing. And as always, I hope that you found this helpful, and if you're looking for tips and advice on how to get the most out of your painting and weathering projects, then please hit subscribe and that little bell icon, and you can be notified anytime I upload a new video. Also, if you haven't already, check out the other videos on this channel, especially the Weathering Basics playlist. Check some of the links down below where you can connect with me in various different ways, either on my Facebook page, on my Twitter page, or follow me on my Instagram account. In addition to that, there's a number of links down there that you will find helpful for some of the products that you've seen in this video. So thanks for watching, good luck, and may you keep on track.